eating, but like when everybody's just sitting there and they have such a boring look on their face, as a teacher, I just can't bear it. So would you just stand up for 1 minute? Just stand up. All right, there's a great little chorus that we sing in Sunday school. Oh, how I love Jesus. But over in Papua New Guinea, of course, we don't sing it in English. We sing it in Melanesian Pidgin. Right, but you sing it just first for me. Just it goes, you know. Oh, how I love Jesus. Oh, how I love Jesus. You got it? All right, wait, you are excellent. Okay, ready, set, go. Oh, how I love Jesus. Oh, how I love Jesus. Oh, how I love Jesus. Because he first loved me. Now, I want you to do something for me. We're going to sing it again. But some of you are still looking at me kind of scary. So even if you don't know it very well, I'd like you to at least smile at me. Okay? What I have to tell the New Guineans is sewing teeth lo you. Show your teeth. Like smile, there's not a pidgin word for smile. So sewing teeth lo you. So let's sing it again, and you smile. And if I frown at you, it means that's the look I'm getting from you, okay? Okay. Oh, go. Oh, how I love Jesus. Oh, how I love Jesus. Oh, how I love Jesus. Because he first loved me. All right, thank you. Clap your hands is paitim handlo you. So clap for yourself. You can have a seat. Thank you so much. So if you are here tomorrow in Sunday school, my husband is going to show a 10-minute video of the work we've done the last 8 years in Papua New Guinea, and then it'll be open for question and answers. And then he'll probably have me give a short testimony in the worship service and then preach. So after when you hear me today, because I'll just give you little hints about things, you can be thinking about questions, like what you might like to know more about. Because really, if you've never traveled overseas or to a third world country, I couldn't even get you to understand what it's like where I live. Like first, you'd have to undo all the electricity in your house. So if you used electricity for anything today, a microwave, a hair dryer, okay, none of that, no electricity. So all right away, I see the girls here going like, oh, we'd all be dead, huh? There are no roads in Baimuru Station. There are no vehicles. We travel in our area only by boat and canoe. Okay, it's all swamp. Okay, we're right at sea level. Fortunately, the way New Guinea is just north of Australia because of the channel there. We don't have much weather like Louisiana's been getting. We do have 6 months of extremely wet, like 300 inches of rain, and then 6 months of not so wet. Okay, but we never have a time without rain. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me see.
We want to be able to hear.
Well, okay. All right. Try again. I don't even know if, I know this is mostly for the recording, but I can speak louder for you. But I don't know if this helps you, like as far as speakers.
That's okay, we'll get the recording.
Okay. Well, I want you to hear me the first time. But thank you. So, we have hot and boil are our 2 seasons. We do not have fall. So if you like fall, you live in the perfect place. Okay, our folks only know green. They cannot imagine winter, like when everything would be dead. To them, that would be a catastrophe because they'd all be starving because they don't go to the store to get any of their food. They grow it. So if it's not a time they can be gardening, they're going to be hungry. We do have a little trade store run by a Chinese family in Baimeru Station. Sometimes I can buy flour or oil, salt or sugar there. The New Guineans don't really do dessert, but they love hot tea, just loaded with sugar. Of course, they can't imagine cold tea because if you don't have electricity, you don't have refrigeration or ice. So there are not cold drinks. But those aren't really the most important things about my place. I mean, that's not why we went over there, because they're out in the middle of nowhere. I live in a pretty dark place spiritually. Okay, I live in a place where people are still tortured and killed for practicing sorcery and putting potions on other people and harming other families. I live in a place where they only know retaliation, not reconciliation. Something can start as one small incident on the rugby field, and then by the end of that evening, houses can be burned down. Right? So that's the kind of society, because for hundreds of years, the New Guineans had lived without any godly influence. I mean, I know you look around our country and we've been out 8 years, and when we come back, yes, I see things going in a direction that certainly are not in a godly direction. But this country had a foundation based on biblical principles. Honesty was honored. Okay, hard work was honored. All right, there are things that were scriptural that were just a part of what you were taught was right. But that's not like that everywhere in the world. All right, things are not the same all over. And our folks were taught that the stronger one, the one who has more, is the most powerful, and they can take what they want. If they walked by our garden and saw there was something ready, like a big cluster of bananas, and we hadn't picked it yet, well, they would think, well, look, they have plenty, and there's just 2 of them, right? But I have a big family, and my kids are hungry, so they'll just come in and take it. People have asked me, well, Trina, since you don't have like much meat and protein, have you ever thought about raising chickens? Okay, I would love to have happy little hens out in a cute little house, and I would give them names, and I'd go out each day and talk to my little layers and get my eggs. But I'd have to set up a 24-hour guard for them. And then when one was stolen, what am I going to do? Like go to my neighbor's house and start looking for feathers and say, you lousy chicken stealers, you know. That's not going to do much for the gospel. So there are some things that we just forgo having because they would only be an interference to our ministry. I need one of these little girls to go over and get my purse that's hanging on that. It's called a Balaam, and a pastor's wife actually made it for me, but I have something in there that I need. Now, I don't know if you brought a Bible with you today, and that's okay, because what I want to share with you, I can just read to you. Thank you so much. So as we've been in the States, many times in New Guinea, people ask me what I miss from my home country. They think it's going to be like going out to restaurants, you know, a coffee shop, going to malls, okay, things like that. First world blessings. But the thing that I miss when I'm over there is family. See, we have 4 adult children. They're all married and 5 grandchildren. And we hadn't seen them for 8 years. My husband had never met his grandchildren till last June at a wedding. But when I'm over here, there is something I really miss about Baimuru Station. And it's not obviously the rain or the mud. I have this one little place in our house, a small little screened-in veranda that's off of our sleeping area. And that's where I can go by myself and just talk and hear from God. I miss that spot. Okay, we spend now most of our days in the car or a hotel or someone's house, and I'm very thankful for all the churches that support us and to give them a report. But I don't get that time. I know you can sit in the car and you can pray, but if you like to pray or sing aloud, that might be kind of annoying to like the driver, you know. And plus, I don't want to be praying exactly for my husband, you know, always while he's right there next to me. I miss that spot. And since your pastor's wife mentioned to you how she would like to see a little more with prayer happen here in the church and between you ladies, I just wanted to share a little bit with you about that. Oh, but I should tell you what in the world I do there. You'll see tomorrow. But in the short form is my husband and I train men and women, couples, to be a pastor and pastor's wife in the ministry. The ladies, our folks, have very little option for education. I know that this last year, COVID, some of your schooling was kind of disrupted. But when we drive around here, there are like, well, how many did you say? 9 high schools?
9, yeah.
All right, there's not even a high school. Our kids in Baimuru Station, they have to go, there's only 3 high schools in our state. Okay, we call them provinces. And the kids who pass the 8th grade exam have to leave their home and go live there for high school. So most of our folks come with very minimal education. And often the wives don't get any because the family, if they're going to pick and choose who gets to go to school, if there's any fees involved or travel, they choose their sons because they plan to just marry off their girls for a bride price, and that's all they're interested in. Okay, as long as they know how to chop firewood and cook a meal and take care of the wash, look out for the little ones, that's really all that matters to the dads. In fact, we've had a couple ladies come with their husbands who had had almost no education because their mother said, oh no, Vanessa, I don't want you to go to school because I need your help to take care of your brothers. So when they come to our 3-year Bible Institute, they learn not only a great deal about the Word of God, they learn how to teach and how to write lessons, how to take care of things scripturally that are problems in their family, how to train their children, all things that they need to be successful as leaders of the church. I've heard it said that most Christians would tell you that they absolutely believe in prayer, that there is a good thing about prayer, that God tells us to pray. But if you really ask people if they'll be honest, well, how much do you pray then? Like each day or weekly? Sometimes those amounts come up in the minutes, like much less than they invest in any other regular activity. And why is it? Well, people get frustrated praying because they have the wrong thinking about it. See, they are trying to move God to their point of view. They come with what they'd like done, what they'd like changed, what they'd like fixed, what they'd like supplied, where they'd like to live, and they're going to just work at moving the God of the universe to their point of view. But that is not the way prayer works, and so after a short time, they give up because God doesn't work that way. God's idea about prayer is that we spend enough time with Him to know what He wants, what He would like from us, what He'd want us to say, who He would want us to see, how He would want us to serve, what would He want us to give. That's why we spend time with Him. Amy Carmichael was a missionary from Northern Ireland who spent over 20 years in India. And in the school and the training center that she oversaw, she gave them 3 rules about prayer that I wrote down because they're good reminders for me. She said, we don't need to explain to God things that are known to Him. Okay, sometimes we spend a lot of time rehashing the whole situation to God like He hasn't been paying attention or He doesn't know. God doesn't really need information from us. Okay, He's actually more aware of the needs of the heart and the need of what needs to be supplied and where is the very best spot to do His work, much more than us. We don't need to press Him as if He were an unwilling God. God is very generous, very loving. He is eager to work together with you to bring about the very best and most wonderful things. I used to think that when you ask something, the scriptures say like ask, seek, knock, talks about importunity, the idea of kind of bothering God. I used to get the idea that, it's because God needs to know I'm really serious. But there's nothing about that really meshes so well with the character of God. I mean, if your child, moms, if they need something, you would feel kind of, you don't like them. Even if something you're planning to give them, you don't expect them every single day, to wake up and say, so Mom, can I have breakfast today? It's like, yeah. Mom, can I wear clothes today? Yeah, you have plenty of clothes to pick from. Okay, He's a good father. Okay, He's not looking for you to talk Him into it. When you need to do repetitive prayer, it's because you are fighting an enemy. See, it's your part in the battle. Somebody that you're praying for to be saved has some kind of wrong thinking. Either they don't understand about their own sin, they don't understand what God's done and supplied for them. So you're praying, when you're praying for their salvation, you're not talking God into it. He already said He's not willing that any should perish, but all should come to repentance. He made His position clear. He did everything possible. So you are praying that person, that the strongholds of wrong thinking in their life will be torn down so that truth can speak to them. And then God's work will come about. You do not have to beg God for good things. And there's no sense of begging Him for bad things because He's not going to do that anyway. I tease our moms in New Guinea. Culturally, if your child cries, it's an indication you are a bad mom. Well, then the only way you can solve that is to give them everything they desire at the moment they desire it. Okay. So they'll be in the little trade store and the child will start out kind of quiet, pull on mama's skirt, okay, and say, I want a biscuit, a cookie, I want a cookie. And mom will say, shh, and then they'll get louder And then eventually they'll fall on the floor and, you know, just be a total mess. And mom, she doesn't want to look like such a terrible mother. So, of course, she'll just quickly buy that biscuit, and there you go, and shh. Now, your Heavenly Father is very wise. So if it's something in His will for you or another, you don't have to beg for that. And if it's something you shouldn't have, then trust Him that it's not the right time for it. Now, the last thing here that she wrote was, and I'm very guilty of this, we don't need to suggest what to do, for He Himself knows what He will do. I don't know, maybe none of you bring your ideas to God about how you think things would be improved, but I do. If, they usually start with like, if only, okay? If only my husband would have a different shift, okay? If only my children would live closer. All right, we have lots of things we bring to God because we think He should rearrange them, and we give Him a plan. Now, you know that when I say it like that, you think, oh, Trina, that's like silly that us little, you know, finite humans would be giving God a plan. But we do it. It's just the truth. When we bring our requests, we also have a solution in mind. Let's leave those with somebody wiser than us. Somebody that understands more. You may have lived with someone a long time and feel like you really understand everything about them. But you probably don't. You just really probably don't. But God does, and His purposes for them are wonderful, and for you too. And He wants to work together with you. And prayer is one of His means for doing that. Now, it also has something to do with how you take care of your missionaries. So since I'm one of those, I'm going to read you something. I found one day reading in 2 Corinthians that Paul wrote to the Corinthians exactly what happens between the missionary and the church. And maybe some of you, if you're kind of new to church, I don't know how familiar you are with how we do this, like Baptist circles, you know. So pretty much what we do is, when God calls a man to a field that he's not going to be able to go there and work or depend upon his congregation for support, so he goes to churches of like faith and practice, presents what God has called them to do, and see if they would like to invest financially in that work. Okay, so God gave us about 38 churches that contribute to what we do in New Guinea, mostly on a monthly or quarterly basis. Sometimes, you know, God steers very random people to give something particular to the ministry or the Bible Institute, and that's a wonderful blessing. But anyway, that's what we do. And when missionaries are raising that support, we call that deputation or desperation. Usually takes a lot of traveling, crisscrossing the country, because if the pastor will have you in, you go. You know, it's like, oh, drive 18 hours for 10 minutes? We'll do it, Pastor. Now, what I'm doing now is a wonderful thing called furlough. This is when we visit the churches who have been giving to our ministry and report on what God's been doing with their investments. And you do not want to miss that tomorrow, because there's some very, very cool stuff that's gone on the last 8 years. But I used to kind of wonder if maybe we made up that plan, you know, just us humans. So let me read you something that Paul wrote in the first chapter of 2 Corinthians. So In verse 8, Paul says, "For we would not, brethren, have you ignorant of our trouble which came to us in Asia, that we were pressed out of measure, above strength, insomuch that we despaired even of life." So the missionary has a responsibility to let the church know how to pray, right? He's got to send some kind of letters or call the pastor or whatever his means of his communication. He can't hide all his troubles and needs. Paul says, "I would not have you to be ignorant. I don't want you to be without knowledge about what's going on here." Okay, so the missionary has to share. Then, in verse 10, Paul does take time to recognize who it is that really solves the problem. Okay, he talks in the end of verse 9, "But in God, which raiseth the dead, who delivered us from so great a death." So we all know that even if we had a need and your church sent us $50,000 to meet it, we'd be very thankful, but we still know that it's really God that gave it to us. He gave it. But then Paul takes the time to say he knows that the Corinthians, though, he should acknowledge their part. So in verse 11 he says, "Ye also helping together," two ways, "by prayer for us, and then that for the gift bestowed upon us by the means of many persons." So there was two ways that the church has been helping, by prayer and by their giving. He says by the means of many persons. So it was the piggy bank in the Sunday school room, and the retired man that now can give a big portion of his income to missions, the family who, like, she takes her tip jar and that goes to God's work. The means of many persons. Prayer and giving. And I was so happy when I read that, because I thought, oh wow, God, these things that we do here as Baptists for missions, it is exactly what you had planned for the church to do. Now, I can get away with saying this because I have no idea what you do here as far as your missionaries, okay? So it's like a very innocent statement. Ladies, if you cannot name at least half a dozen of your missionaries, like ones you know enough to pray for, you've got to kind of step it up a little, okay? Because that's one of the ways you help them. And I'm sorry, just like I don't go out to Baimuru and say, "And God bless the churches." Well, no, I have to do better than that in my praying. You got to do better than, "And God bless the missionaries," like when you sit at the table before you eat your roll. Okay. Know something about them. Okay, know where they are. You have access to so much information. Almost all of your missionaries have websites. Right? You could even go there. You could see pictures of their place. You could read their most recent letters. You could find out if some terrible weather or political event happened in their place. Now, my folks in New Guinea, they don't have access to information like you do. They don't have books in their house. They don't have a library in their town. They don't have textbooks in their school. They don't get a newspaper. There's not even mail delivery. Okay, but you have access to lots of information, and you could know how to be good prayers, and you should be, because that is one of the things that Paul looked to the church for, to have a part in his ministry. I'm going to be praying for this idea about you praying for one another, and I hope that when you get, like, if you agree to have a prayer partner, that somewhere in there Each person will get like one of your missionaries for that month to pray about and find out a few requests from them. Your missionaries are just real families with all the same kind of headaches, but generally intensified because of the place they live, the culture they live in, the language things they run into. Please pray especially for those that have children. Those children will probably learn that language better than their parents, but the truth is that you're always on the outside. You can live there 20 years, but you will never get all of like the inside jokes, the stories, some of the thinking, So I hope that Hebrews said we should provoke one another to love and good works. So I hope that today you'll be a little stronger in your thinking about prayer, and you'll remember how important it is to be praying. So thank you.